Hello friends, Patrick here, and you may have noticed that my channel has been renamed. Yes, I have moved off the nickname into my name. Yes, that's my name if anybody was wondering. And also you may have noticed that my mug is now the profile pic instead of my lovely cat assistant. That still is around somewhere. Love the picture. But anywho, it's me. This is my channel. And just sort of, I guess you could call it a rebrand, but just a continuation, opening it up to more and more, I guess, information about myself and what I'm about. Anywho, this video is about the Nintendo Switch. Let's talk about that because we have released, we have seen the released, I would call it a trailer or a teaser of the Nintendo Switch. It hasn't really given us a lot of information about the specs. We did see that it is running the new Zelda game, which I am so excited about, and this will probably be the first Nintendo console that I'm really pumped for, and might actually get it day one. The Wii was okay. Well, actually, I mean, everybody loved it, but I just didn't think it was that whole Nintendo spirit. It just didn't feel quite right, and the Nintendo Wii U was an absolute waste of time. Nobody could really understand what the screen was for, that secondary screen. And the 3DS, they're just going overboard, I think, with what it is. And I saw the recent one, which is just a flat thing that looks, you know, two screens, doesn't even fold over, which I thought was terrible. But the Nintendo Switch looks quite promising because of a few reasons, and there's a few negatives that I saw from the video itself that I'll talk about, and hopefully I'll put up a few pictures as I talk about them. If not, it might be because I'm not allowed to. I'm not really sure about the technicalities there. Apparently up to 10% you can use for review purposes, though this isn't much of a review rather than a discussion. But anywho, the first thing I noticed about it is obviously that you can play from your chair, your desk, your couch on a big screen TV. And as soon as the video continues, the guy picks it out, takes it out, and mounts two little hand controllers onto it. Really cool, it becomes a PSP. Yes, well that's what I thought, that's exactly what I thought. It wasn't even a touchscreen from what we saw, so no involvement with the touchscreen. I think it would be really cool if it was a touchscreen, but it became a PSP. Okay, if that's all it was, okay, if it was just a handheld device, I think it would be pretty cool, but it does connect to a base station, which we don't really know about if it's just doing charging, or if it's giving some extra power to run it on potentially 4K, but I doubt it. I think it will be 1080p upscaled to 4K, but from history, Nintendo usually does hit that 60 frames per second, so I'm hoping it'll be 1080 upscaled at 60 frames. That would be ultimate gaming experience with Zelda and Skyrim, as we saw. Now, when you put that device on the little mount, there is an extra controller, the Pro Controller, which looks absolutely terrible. All I can imagine is people buying separate or third-party controllers, and hey, if anybody right now has an idea of starting a little company or a little business building some sort of game pad or something accessory to any consoles, this is it. This will be a great little business venture, building a third-party controller that even looks like the old classic ones and connects to this new Nintendo Switch. Because handheld like this, the two side controllers are really cool. When you put them together like this, it's a bit silly, but when they are apart in two different hands, they're fine. But using that middleware and connecting it together, it just looks really bulky. And that is the problem that I have with the other side of it, is when it shows two or more players. Imagine how you'd be holding it. If you've got the thumbstick on this side, you've got the top bit there. That's kind of fine, okay? But if you're the other player, those sharp edges are digging into your palms, and you've got the, you know, if you want to hold the thumbstick the correct way, because you got to flip it around, it is just uncomfortable. And each player, I mean, if you're player number one, you've got to grab the best controller, which might be that Pro Controller, or you give those little handhelds to the side. I mean, who is going to go out and buy extra controllers just for their friends? It isn't really what Nintendo's about. It's about that plug in and play for all your friends, and everybody's on that same sort of level. And then again, you could say that the games that you'll be playing together is just silly party games like Nintendo Racing thing. So the go-kart, Nintendo Kart, Mario Kart. Gosh, I can't believe I forgot that. But those kind of games. And so it might not be as bad, but I still think there could be a better implementation of it by just making it symmetrical or a little bit curved. Maybe it fits in differently into that the whole screen. And like I mentioned before, a touch screen would actually be super cool because you could have it like this, and then you could maybe do some, maybe swipe stuff. I don't know. They could implement something, because that second touch screen implementation that I had before was absolutely atrocious. Waste of bloody time. In the games that we played on that Nintendo Wii U, I was gonna say Nintendo because it's Wii, but that second screen usually had the map, but there was a better map on the screen when you were playing. So what's the point of having that second screen? Taking your eyes away from it is actually worse than just looking at the screen a little bit to the left when you had the map in the corner. So why? It just didn't make sense to me at the time. That is why I completely skipped the Wii U. I thought the Wii was a great little movement game, but now I've got the slight feeling that Nintendo is moving away from those movement games and all that sort of stuff. If you may notice, the video didn't depict those little controls being used as movement controllers. But here's what they could do really, really well if Nintendo stepped up. Every single peripheral from all the other old Nintendo consoles works with Nintendo Switch. That would be absolutely amazing. All those nunchuck controllers, if it worked with this Nintendo, it would be awesome. And if the games were backwards compatible, that would be awesome. That is a winning device, and that really kind of puts the name Switch into its reality, because if you can switch between multiple controllers and play this one device, and it became the ultimate in-room entertainment that you can take with you somewhere else with a little kickstand that I think is kind of supported by Microsoft Surface. If I kind of think about it, the Surface had a very good implementation of that kickstand. But anyway, if that is what this console becomes, I think it will be one of the best Nintendo consoles ever. Of course, Nintendo 64, but in the new day and age, this would be fantastic. But what that means, Nintendo would really, really need to step up and become very forward-thinking, because Sony, Microsoft, their consoles are just becoming backwards compatible after like 2 iterations of the new version, 360 and Xbox One S. Now you can play some chosen games that you can buy again. You can't put an old, disc in. The PS3 had the version that could, and it had a Linux option too, that you could run Linux. And the reason they removed it because of piracy, and people weren't buying new PlayStation 3 games. They were playing their old ones. It just wasn't selling. But it made the PS3 console the best thing ever. A Blu-ray player, backwards compatible. What more could you want? You had all your old PS2 games that you wouldn't need to throw out. It replaced both consoles, the PS2 and the PS3, replaced 3 things, the Blu-ray player, the PS2, and it became a new home entertainment in one. And that was great. Everybody owned that 80 gig console, the first one that came out, the big one. I think was absolutely thrilled at what they had. So, Nintendo has to think a bit more widely. I think if they manage to replace the small devices and the home entertainment, they will do absolutely great. Hopefully some new Pokemon games will come out on Nintendo Switch. I'm really hoping for some nice 3D versions of the Nintendo Pokemon games. I know you can get some right now, but I don't think they're quite there yet. If a version of Pokemon in the style of Nintendo's Zelda, the new one right now, if that came out, that would be really, really cool. Imagine this RPG game with 3D graphics, almost like WoW. You don't have to go far with it, but it would be really cool if you could just, do that, and it wouldn't be as small as those current Nintendo ones. Now, back to Nintendo Switch. The cartridge implementation is really good because, come on any little memory stick, you can fit every single game. There are 64 gig sticks out there that you can fit 3 or 4 games, like big games. Battlefield 1 is only 40 gig, so that would fit perfectly on this little memory stick. I know you have to install it on there, so it actually is runnable, but you pretty much can. It just needs to have a nice high read and write speed, and it would be fine. Even the read speed would be good because you just read it off and load it into the local memory of the device. Now, the next thing I'm going to mention is something that's not mentioned in that initial video that everybody has watched, but it's mentioned in from NVIDIA. NVIDIA has put out a blog post saying that they will be supplying the hardware for the Nintendo Switch. And this is where it gets a bit murky. Nintendo isn't building their own hardware. That whole tablet is made by NVIDIA. And I think it's a spiritual successor of the NVIDIA Tegra tablet that came out recently on the Android, and you can play all these cool games. And actually, if you had the NVIDIA Shield, you could stream games from your computer or even play them live through the NVIDIA Grid, which I think would be amazing. But it hasn't really taken off just yet. I guess maybe it's because of the fact that our internet speeds here in Australia are pretty slow, and a lot of people are still kind of just wanting to play on the computer locally. But anyway, the Nintendo Switch is really just an NVIDIA Tegra tablet. That's all it is. It's a gaming tablet with Nintendo's IP software and the OS, and that is a really, really good bond. NVIDIA makes great gaming hardware, especially in the performance way. I mean, they're using their Pascal chips in cars now, so, you know, automotive industry is using it for their cars that drive by themselves, driverless cars. That is really good, and it's really amazing that NVIDIA is part of that, and now they're putting that quality into the Switch. The only problem I see is because Pascal is quite a recent addition to the NVIDIA lineup. I don't think that tablet is running the latest chip. It might be running a little bit older, but that's because of Nintendo's long lead time of building the device. I think this device has been in progress for at least 3 or 4, even 5 years. I mean, the Wii U is probably almost a prototype for that. It's like putting the Wii U's whole thing into just the handheld console little bit and making it sleek, thin, and performance-wise, hopefully outputting 1080p at 60 frames for upscale to 4K if you have a 4K TV. But that, I think, is why NVIDIA and Nintendo is a good mix. They're a good mix because NVIDIA makes such good hardware, and even graphics cards. Yes, I know, AMD hasn't really come out with their Polaris, Zen, whichever one, Zen's the CPU. We're hoping that the next AMD will outperform NVIDIA because we need competition. NVIDIA has slowed down. They haven't really reinvented the wheel or tried anything new. Unfortunately, it's holding the whole gaming industry back. On the side of Nintendo though, this mix in hardware is really gonna put them on the foot up, because from now, everybody's gonna be looking at Microsoft and Sony and going, how the hell are your consoles the size of houses compared to this little tablet and performing the same? Skyrim, folks, was running pretty nicely on that TV. Even if it's at 1080p 30 frames, it was still running as good as the current generation consoles. So it's going to be a bit of embarrassment, I think, to Sony and Microsoft. But in saying that, I'm really hoping the Nintendo Switch finds its own place in the market, because I think it's going to be very much a specialty item. I don't think it's going to sell as big as some people might think, but I think it's going to be more than the usual sales. So guys, let me know in the comments what you are looking forward to about Nintendo Switch, and if you have heard any rumors, maybe there's some people from Nintendo watching, I doubt it, but let me know, maybe send me a private message about the specs of it, because that's what I'm interested. I'm interested in what kind of hardware NVIDIA is putting into this tablet to run these games. And, of course, the most important part of something that is portable, and that is the bloody battery life. How long is it gonna last on this device? And I mean, how well does it switch from going from here and putting into the dock and going back out? I mean, how quickly? And, you know, no loss of game. That was pretty instantaneous on the video. Let's hope that it is like that in real life, because at the end of the day, that video could have been very well edited. There's a lot of editing programs that make things look quite smooth, and I'm wondering if you put it in, it lags out, it stops, and you're like stuck and you can't play, and then it loads in, or you take it off and it like crashes or something. Like, you don't know. So I'm hoping Nintendo really works out well, and could be easy if it's just a matter of that device using the other display. So it's just changing displays, and if it works like that, I think it'll work quite smoothly. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think, and subscribe for more content like this. And also, there is a competition still going on, so look that up on my channel, and there's going to be a lot more giveaways, but that's ending soon anyway, and I'll see you guys around.